So as Katie mentioned, in 2018, the voters in Tualatin approved a bond measure that established a pretty incredible program that I think most of the other cities in the metro area are very jealous of, to be honest. There's $20 million to fund traffic safety, traffic efficiency, and pedestrian safety projects all throughout the city. And this is one of them. So we call it the Tualatin-Sherwood Rd from Martinazzi to I-5 project. And it's really Tualatin-Sherwood Rd and Nyberg Street because it's at the point where the street kind of changes names. So it was an important part of the bond program. One of the things that the voters were most interested in, because I'll tell you in a second, there's a lot of small things that the city can do to make that section of roadway, which is a really important nexus for the community, just make it work a lot better and safer. So a lot of it is about traffic flow through this area. Bike safety is an important component of these improvements. And so this particularly the bike aspect of this project that we're really looking for your input on this evening and over the next few weeks. This Tualatin-Sherwood Rd project is in this area. The official, this is kind of what we told the voters, what we told council. The purpose of the project is to improve operations and safety in this segment. It's right around the Fred Meyer and Nyberg rivers, which is the Cabela's is, and also improve pedestrian and bike safety. The reason why this project has been such a gotten so much attention, has been so popular with everybody, is with some strategic changes, not big expansion of the roadway, but big, strategic changes at the signals, striping, and adding an additional lane by the median. We can shave off like 2 minutes of travel time just through this area. And in traffic terms, that's a big deal. That is really hard to get that type of savings. And so that's the type of thing when people complain about congestion, it really does make a difference. And if you've driven through this area, there's also just confusion because everybody's kind of trying to angle, try to figure out which lane to go in to get onto I-5, either southbound or northbound. So there's a lot of weaving that happens and crashes that happen because of that weaving, and it's cars weaving. There's this bike lane that kind of goes through the middle of all of that. And so we're looking for options that will make it safer for everybody. Part of what we're going to be talking about, though, is also reinforcing the Tualatin River Greenway, which passes just north of Tualatin-Sherwood Rd in Nyberg. It's an amazing facility, a gem. If you've ridden it, you know what I mean. It's not fully continuous yet, but it will be, and it's just going to keep getting better. So it's kind of hidden, and a lot of people don't know how to get to the access points. So we want to take advantage of this investment to figure out how to really reinforce that as an important place for biking. So, but back to the project, just to ground you, the area that we're really focused on for this, the project is between Tualatin-Sherwood Rd, between Boones Ferry and I-5. So in this area, right in front of Fred Meyer, we're going to shave a little space off of the planted median in the middle and allow a longer centered vehicle lane, that's part of where that time savings comes up and getting cars more efficiently through this area. And then to the east, restriping the existing lanes and adding signage so everyone knows which lane to get into, so we reduce some of that weaving. And as we'll talk more tonight, we're proposing to remove the bike lane. It's really in this section. It goes across the highway there, generally to restripe the lanes and make it more efficient. Part of the project already, though, is to improve the bikeway access to the Tualatin River Greenway Trail, because there aren't bike lanes on Tualatin-Sherwood Rd. Between Boones Ferry and Martinazzi, really between Boones Ferry and Fred Meyer. We want to make this light green area, make it them better. So there are some pretty skinny bike lanes. We're going to kind of shift things around on that street so they're buffered bike lanes and really safer and nicer, providing a little more protection. so that people can get from Boones Ferry Road to the trailhead that's over by the library. And also adding wayfinding signage so that people can say, you know, turn here, turn right, the trail is just down the street. And starting to a wayfinding system, this would be the kind of the knuckle of a wayfinding system that could eventually start to spread throughout Tualatin. This would be I think the first time bicycle wayfinding would be applied. Right now it's just funded for this segment though. So getting back to the bike lane, so why are we talking about, you know, considering removing this bike lane between Fred Meyer and I-5? It's not something that we would think about doing lightly. And it would require permission from ODOT. And it's important that we hear from you because we wanted to make sure that we're following doing right by the cyclists in Tualatin. But this is a pretty gnarly area. These yellow arrows show there's heavy traffic flows coming from the north, from the Cabela's and the New Seasons, coming down Tualatin-Sherwood Rd and coming from Fred Meyer. There's kind of a continual flow of traffic, either to go across Nyberg, turn south onto the right southbound turn lane to I-5, or to keep going and then turn to the northbound. And in the midst of all of that traffic, this bike lane, which is it's kind of a little hard to see here, the orange, it's just trying to go right through all of that. And it's going uphill. It's about a 4%, 5% grade. Here, this is just a little video I took when I was I'm a pretty avid cyclist. I've been an avid cyclist most of my life. I was like, oh, I'll check it out. You know, I'll see what this is all about. And actually I got out there and this is what I saw at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, just a typical day. And I wasn't willing to bike it. What I saw was this type of traffic, large trucks, continual flow of traffic moving right across that bike lane for a good 20 minutes. It's about 30 miles an hour is what the signage says. I think a lot of the traffic is often moving faster than that. And the official counts say there's about 30,000 cars per day on this segment of the roadway. So it's pretty heavy duty. I know that all of you are Tualatin residents, I believe. Maybe some of you work there. So you're probably pretty familiar with this, but I want to point out some key points about the area here. So these little stars you'll see on all these maps, these are the existing trail access points on each side of the highway to get onto the Tualatin River Greenway Trail, which connects beautifully and safely under I-5. Those connections under highways can be a little dicey, and this is probably one of the nicest ones that I've seen in my professional career. There are access points to not only the shopping complex, but this one particularly connects to this neighborhood over here, Forest Rim. If you've ridden it, you know that the trail currently abruptly ends right over here on the east side. That will be built. I said imminent. Imminent could be a year, maybe 2. It is permitted by the city and it will be built when that land develops. And it's a requirement of the city that development build that section of the trail. So it's really close to being done. The red lines on both sides of the map show the missing bike lanes. And so I'll be referencing this a little bit later, but so there's a continuous bike lane on the north side of Nyberg here. And just to be clear, we're not talking about removing that. On the south side of Nyberg, it kind of ends right when you land on the east side of I-5, and there's kind of missing bike lanes around the corners. Oh, and in the future, you may not know, there are plans for a Nyberg Creek Trail that would pass underneath I-5 on the south side of Nyberg. And so that's in the parks plan, it's in the city's transportation plan. And the city actually owns much of the land that would be required to build this trail. So it is a long-term project. It's not imminent like the other one, but it's real, and continuing to work towards that is another long-term option for improving connectivity in this area. And of course, there are already bike lanes on Sagert Street that do cross I-5. And this just quickly, so the orange areas show multifamily housing areas. Just to reiterate that a lot of the trail actually does connect to most of the residential neighborhoods. The other areas, residential areas, are further south that don't even really connect to Nyberg that well. So pause for a second. So what we're really talking about here is this area in the red dash, that on the south side, proposing as part of this bond-funded project is to take that bike lane away. There would still be a little bit of a shoulder, so it wouldn't be impassable, but to make it not an official bike facility, and instead investing in improving access to the trail, including wayfinding signage to actually help people get there. In addition to the bike lanes I showed you on Boones Ferry Road, also doing some improvements to help people get across Tualatin-Sherwood Road between Fred Meyer and Cabela's. That's a pretty challenging intersection to cross now. So we're looking at ways to get that, get across the street there as well. So putting the energy into getting people to the trail as opposed to just getting up that hill there is what we were here to talk about tonight. So as I said, proposing to take out a bike lane in Oregon is no small thing and not something that we would normally ever advocate for. But part of what's going on here is that, we looked at a lot of different options. And if any of you, I know at least a few of you might get a little wonky with me on this. So there's way we think about bike lane and bike facility design is trying to find a good match between the type of facility, bike lane, protected bike lane trail, and what's going on the roadway, particularly with volume, the vehicles per day, which is on the y-axis here, and the speed of those vehicles. So this is a standard type of table that you would, kind of follow. So if you say like it's 30, 35 miles per hour, and what I say, 30,000 cars per day, this street is way off this chart, which tells us that the way to design a bike facility for this segment of roadway is for it to be separated from cars somewhat. And that's what the ODOT standards would ask us to do. So this is a picture that it doesn't show full separation, which would be some type of a vertical barrier, but at least some kind of spatial separation, the stripes between the people biking and the people driving there. Is if we're going to put a bike facility on there and really have it be safe, that's what we would need to do. Unfortunately, there is not room for that on the bridge. To do this right, we would need to widen the bridge. And so remember what I said when I was describing this project that was going to help with the efficiency of traffic flow at this key place in Tualatin. It was to do some strategic investments with striping and signage and signals, not widening the whole street, not widening the bridge. So the funding that the city has for this project, it doesn't even come close to being what would be required to really do a bike facility on that bridge and do it right. We did look at a lot of options because you or your friends, people you talk to may say like, well, what about that? What about that? Did you look at that? Did you consider that? So we did look at a lot of options. Part of the problem is that many of them end up with a person on the bike between two travel lanes, between the right turning lane and the through lane, going uphill with traffic blasting by them on both sides. Not great. And again, it doesn't connect on either side, so it's a very awkward facility. We looked at this one, which would let the bike stay at the curb, all the way up the hill, and then provide a kind of a rest point to then cross at a signal at the top. That could be feasible, but even that crossing at the signal at the top is actually an uphill movement. And if there was a bike signal, it would start to cause some of the delays that might take away from some of the travel savings that we're trying to get in the first place. And it's still, if we spent the money and all the effort to get this correct, the person on the bike is still stuck there trying to cross the northbound I-5 ramps and then end up in a place where there's no bike lanes. this is sort of the option that we have as really the default. This is the build option, so to speak, which is sort of the best of both worlds. Of it, you can see the green, we bike along by the curb, and then merge over to the left and to follow the other green, and then continue through, while somebody who's turning, going right southbound on I-5 would kind of cross over. I think you can probably see by now, like, why we just don't think this is probably the best we could do, and we just don't think it's a great idea. The person biking has to weave over while going uphill, and the other cars are weaving across them to go to the right. And in this area where there's, really high levels of traffic. So we're not thrilled about this. So that's why we started talking about, well, maybe we look at an option that doesn't include the bike lane. And really kind of take a step back and think about how can we improve biking safety through the whole district or the whole area, with other types of changes that will just still make it a better place to bike, and not encouraging people to do that on Nyberg. As I mentioned earlier, it does require approval from ODOT. They may not give it to us. Like, we don't know. This is not a done deal. This is really just an idea at this point. And so that's why we really want to hear from you on if it's a good idea, or if there's something we're missing, or if there are other ideas that, as we go through this, we should also be considering. So in terms, I've said a few times, we want to focus on investing in the trail. So these pictures just show, if you're not familiar with it, there are the facilities that are there from left to right. There's an alley that goes through between New Seasons and Cabela's. There's a public easement that is an official access to the trail. There's great signage already at these access points. In the middle is the undercrossing under I-5, and then the amazing gem of a boardwalk over there. And then the access point to the apartment. So again, this is already there, but what we need to do is improve wayfinding to help people get there to and from, and improve access, across the busy street to be able to get there. And I mentioned earlier, Nyberg Greenway Trail. So this is an image from the parks plan. So this is something that is, coming eventually, but is also part of it. And so that's the presentation. I just wanted to kind of walk you through the project, the issues, give you enough context so that you can, talk to us. What do you think about all of this? Is there anything that just hits you wrong that we need to think through? Do you have any ideas on how we can do better? Is there any, or even in terms of the, the trail or other things, or the specific things that you think could make that a more attractive bikeway?